Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. Your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And of course, last night was WWE SmackDown. It was a bit of a stacked one. Of course, John Cena is in the middle right now of his 7-week run on the blue brand, and we almost saw his first match, but not quite yet, it seems. We got a lot to get into today, but before we get into it, let me firstly introduce the panel. Let me get it underway by introducing the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are things, Clark?
What's going on, Ben? I'm doing well, man. I'm stoked to be here. We've got debuts and returns, not just in wrestling, but at Wrestling Republic on this very podcast. And I'm stoked about it. I'm hyped to get into it. I'm ready to get going. We've got SmackDown. We've got Rampage, Grand Slam, Arthur Ashe Stadium to talk about. We've got plenty of topics on tap, and I'm just going to toss it right back to you to get all the way into this.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a return. Well, he is back. He's been away for a few weeks, but the controversial Ignacio Pinalez is back. How are things, Ignacio?
Great. Excited to be back here at Wrestling Republic on the show, on the podcast. Got some interesting things to talk about. And, man, it just seems like the wrestling world's flipped like upside down since I was last here. I mean, some dark days we've had, and we have some positive things and some things to looking forward to and some re-debuts and so forth. So, excited to be here on the show. And looks like we have a newcomer here. And what a day to debut on my re-debut.
Absolutely. You just mentioned it. We've got somebody new here on the podcast. Not new to Wrestling Republic, but new to the podcast. We have Josh Markowitz. How are things, Josh?
Ben, what's up, man? Everything's been awesome. I'm really excited to get this going and being on the daily broadcast. Hopefully, from here on out, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. SmackDown, Grand Slam, everything to talk about. And I'm just ready to talk pro wrestling.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good one today. I can feel it. But let's get things underway by talking about the Women's Championship match on SmackDown. Going into it yesterday on the daily, we basically all said that we were excited for the match, as we are, we're hardcore wrestling fans, and we knew that it was going to be a banger of a bout. But the issue with it was going in was that there was next to no story. And when you've got two people with as much history between them as Io Sky and Asuka do, that was simply not good enough. It really wasn't. Commentary did a decent job of, linking the dots for some people, but still, it just straight up, they should have told a story here. This should have been a pay-per-view match. This should have been a main event match. Was it good? Yes, it was good. It should have had more time, and it should have had a story, and it would have been 10 times better than it was. I still enjoyed it, though, and in the end, Io Sky got the win. When Bayley was trying to, assist Io Sky, Charlotte took Bayley out, and that distracted Asuka. So Io Sky got the victory, thanks to Charlotte taking out Becky. Oh well, it seems like the way that this is going to go is Charlotte versus Io Sky versus Asuka. We're doing another triple threat, it seems, during this Io Sky reign. But yeah, they need to tell a story with Asuka and Io Sky, and they also need to tell a story specifically with the character of Io Sky, because currently there's just next to nothing there. But Clark, give me your thoughts on this, this Women's Championship bout.
I thought they gave him too much time. They had plenty of time, and what are we doing here? Come on. I've been begging to have explained which damage is actually being controlled by damage control. This entire time we had Dakota Kai out there celebrating as if everything's okay, and Bailey. I hear you on the triple threat thing. How about a fatal 4-way and throw Bailey in there and then throw a wrench in this and let's actually be told a story. It's unfair to Io Sky. It's unfair to Asuka. It's arguably unfair to Charlotte and Bailey. We have 4 of the best talents in all of women's wrestling across the planet in this scenario, and it's convoluted. Come on, who are we kidding here? Like, let's get this figured out. It's not that hard to get these 4 in a position. We're arguing for main event status, and there's nothing about what we saw last night that thinks or implies main event.
Yeah,
in the near future. It's just frustrating. Yes, Io got the win. Io and Asuka should have been a match that was built years in the making. I mean, we're talking about generational type stuff. Japanese women's wrestlers coming over to WWE, having success up through the ladder of NXT, and we can't tell that story. Come on, what are we doing?
I mean, their story's even deeper than that.
It is.
I mean, Io Sky was Asuka's Io Sky's sister was Asuka's tag team partner in Japan. Like, there's so much history between those two.
We're better than this. Is where I'd leave it. Just personally, I'm done with it. I'm not done with it because all 4 talents are 4 of my favorite performers on the roster. But like, let's get this right. Maybe a fatal 4-way is the route you go down the road and have a surprise winner and tell a long story there. But I let's salvage it some way and let's be done with damage control because there has not been any damage controlled whatsoever.
Yeah, you are right there. We got Bobby Petito in the comments. Shout out Bobby, and he is saying they should do a singles match between Io Sky and Shotzi for the title.
I love you, Bobby, but woof.
I mean, I actually
not right now.
Yeah, not right now. 100%. I'm liking this new Shotzi gimmick. I really am. I like to say that I was the first one who ever scouted Shotzi. I watched her years back, and I've always thought she had potential. Maybe she was called up too early to the main roster. In fact, there is no maybe. She was called up too early. But I'm liking this new character. But let's have it develop a bit more, because currently you'd have 2 people with developing characters going against each other, and for me, main roster doesn't work.
I hear the call for Shotzi at the end of the day, but I look on the other side of the roster and Zelina Vega. If she hasn't had her moment yet, are we really in a position to give one to Shotzi? And I'm not saying give one, right? But for the time being, Zelina Vega is the route that I would go. Whether it's either title, she's earned it. She's done it. She's as over as anyone. Every appearance she makes is a huge pop. And she's proven that she can go bell to bell with someone like Rhea Ripley. So it's not that big of a stretch. And like we've talked about in the past, Ben, this brand split is what it is. Maybe it's time for a trade or something. Maybe Zelina ends up on SmackDown, and that would be something that could solve.
Well, Zelina is on SmackDown.
Technically, really?
Yeah. Zelina's LWO.
I guess since so Zelina is on SmackDown. She is
full blown. She was drafted SmackDown. Yes,
then I would go Vega.
Yeah.
No, before I would go Shotzi.
To be fair, I don't blame you for getting confused on the brand split, because
it's brutal. It's
muddled, but no, she is SmackDown, and she has always been SmackDown this year.
Technically, yeah. There we go. Thank you, Bobby.
But now let's move on, and I'm gonna pass it to Ignacio. Ignacio, what were your thoughts on this women's match and the storyline in general?
Oh, okay. I think Io Sky is boring, bland, overrated in the ring, a useless time of money and resources, and that's just putting it mildly for the podcast. I just don't like her, dude. I don't get what people see in her. I think she's, she can't cut a promo. Bailey's trying to give her the rub and has been for over a year already. They need to do away with damage control. I love Asuka. I mean, I love what she can do in the ring. I love her character. It's just, I think a lot of the focus is just on Rhea Ripley right now and what they're doing on Raw with the women's division, and just not so much on SmackDown. And the focus is going to be around Charlotte because she's the star there. But it's just, I don't want to say things are falling apart on that side, but it just seems like more attention is being surrounded around Rhea Ripley, which it should be, because Io Sky she shouldn't have the title. They need to put the title on the star. They need to get back on Charlotte Flair, and then build some opponents for her. Some move some people up from NXT maybe to get some fresh faces on there, because Damage Control and Io Sky just isn't doing it for me. She on the way to the ring, they were saying, Michael Cole was saying, this is a dream match, and I wrote down for who, and he said,
For me.
Whatever, it's for who, and then he said, well, that term is overused. I'm like, yeah, just like you did now. That's bro, this whatever, this is match, I didn't care about it. You know, it was okay for whatever it was, and you know, I can do without Io Sky on my TV.
Wow. I mean, I've been a fan of Io Sky for years. I think she's great in the ring. I really do think in the ring she's one of the best women's wrestlers. However, character-wise, there's nothing there right now. I said that yesterday, and I'll say it again. Something's missing. But in the ring, for me personally, I really strongly think she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world right now. But what about you, Josh? What are your thoughts on this storyline and this position Io Sky is currently in?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Ben. I think when we talk about the match itself, I think there was a ton of anticipation for the match. I think, we had WWE calling it a dream match more than once on commentary. We had the match preview beforehand. It felt like a premium live event match, and I feel like it should have been on a premium live event, and it wasn't. And I feel like, I wasn't a fan of the Charlotte interference either. I feel like there's like a contract going on where Charlotte has to be near the title at all times. I feel like that's what this is, because I feel like I just wasn't a fan with all the buildup. And then before the bell even rings, Charlotte just comes out. I feel like they should have at least maybe gave Io and Asuka 6 or 7 minutes before Charlotte interfered. And I'm also just not a fan of the ending of the match, how like the Charlotte interference and just like a moonsault kind of won the match. I feel like in a match where you're advertising as a dream match and a huge premium live event scale match, I think that, I don't think an interference is the way to go with this type of match.
I do have to agree with you there, Josh. I really do. The fact that Charlotte came out straight away, it kind of took some of the attention off the match, I'd say. I mean, I'm not a big interruptions guy at all. I understand why they did the Bayley and Charlotte thing at the end, but I don't think necessarily Charlotte had to be at ringside. But for whatever reason, they wanted her to be. They wanted some of the eyes to be on her. But I really do wish that they built this up, like you said, a premium live event. This would have made a lot of sense for, a PLE main event. Really, really would have, no doubt about that. I mean, we've got a couple of comments here that I'll quickly go to. I mean, I actually forgot about this as well, to be fair, Clark. But Zelina Vega has already lost to Io, apparently, in this title reign. And I do remember it now. I forgot about it.
So what? She's already lost to a bunch of people. So if half the roster on WWE, a lot of losses have been taken. Are we doing the records thing? Are we doing the records
thing? It's
not
been a long title reign.
Is Kobe going like the, we were doing this based on records thing? Because I thought he didn't like that in AEW. So I don't know. Win-loss records wise, he had no complaints when Finn Balor was 3-33 challenging for the title. But all of a sudden, Zelina takes one loss to Io Sky, and woo, we're in trouble. Now he's typing. I can see him typing.
He doesn't care about record.
He doesn't care. I don't care. He doesn't care.
Oh gosh, we're gonna see Clark and Kobe get into it like
take
like
this
Ignacio
to the table,
and
Kobe.
David will be. Oh gosh,
we'll
have to give Chaos a ring, won't we, to sort out a few of these confrontations currently at Wrestling Republic. But Kobe's just spamming the comments at this point, but
knock it off, Kobe. I see you typing.
But the one thing I will agree with Kobe on is he said, and this is a perfect ending point for this segment. Kobe says the way he said, he should have said it yesterday, was as a wrestling fan he was excited, but as a consumer he wasn't. And that did, that does make a lot of sense.
Well typed.
Now let's move on. And let's talk about the Street Profits versus the LWO. First things first. We always talk about how great Montez Ford is. Well, the one person who really amazed me during this match was actually Angelo Dawkins. I feel like when 6 months ago everybody was speculating, that Montez Ford was going to go towards a singles run, I feel like everybody kind of got under Angelo Dawkins' skin a bit because he's acting like he's got a point to prove now, and he really did great in this tag match on SmackDown. His expressions were fantastic in the ring. He was very, very solid, and he just felt like a star. He really did in this one. But the big shocker coming out of this is the LWO got the victory. Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar got the victory over the Street Profits, and how this happened was Bobby Lashley, tried to help them by, cheating. And, I mean, I guess they took too long or whatever. Rey Mysterio flipped over, count 1, 2, 3. I was shocked. The Street Profits, took the loss. They were looking at Bobby Lashley like completely disgusted. He was looking back at them disgusted. It was a few meme-worthy moments. A lot of people in the IWC, they're already using them. But it was a very fun match for what it was, but it was fairly short. And yes, Street Profits took a loss during this later on in the night. Bobby Lashley said to the Street Profits that if they're not up to it, then he's going to find somebody else in catering and take them to the next level instead. Clark, give me your thoughts on this match and the current storyline between the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley.
I hate to do this twice in one show, and I'll make this as brief as possible, but I hated this. Like, what are we doing here? We have arguably the second best tag team in all of WWE, the Street Profits, behind the Usos, who are also split up in a position where they're taking a loss to a thrown together team with a mentor-mentee scenario. The wrong part of the LWO that should be going over. We just talked about how Zelina Vega should be featured more prominently. We're getting Santos and Rey Mysterio going over for why over the Street Profits. Are you kidding me? I don't get it. None of it makes sense. The going to catering thing with Bobby Lashley, like, we're talking about the Street Profits. It's a joke. I don't get it. I don't like the booking. I didn't like the match. I didn't like the follow-up segment. I don't like anything about it. And I liked the Wall Street Profits idea with Bobby and the Street Profits out of the gates. But this, no, knock it off. What are we doing? Who in the tag team division is relevant? We just have the Judgment Day. We're just throwing together teams from factions. Like, look, they wear matching gear because it's the same color. And we've got Balor and Priest. Like, who cares? I get the Sammy and Kevin thing. That's different. But I mean, we had the Usos. We had real tag teams. You've got the Viking Raiders. You've got real tag teams. There's no tag team division in WWE. It's just two singles stars paired together at all times, even if you are a real tag team. And that's what I learned from this mistreatment of the Street Profits. It's silly to me, and I'm over it. It's unfair to Montez and Dawkins both.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here real quick, Clark. I don't necessarily disagree with what you said, but I'm going to play the other side. You said, why did Mysterio and Santos Escobar, get the victory? Well, because the Street Profits was thrown off because of Bobby Lashley. And also, Rey Mysterio is the current United States champion, and Santos Escobar is the number one contender as well. And yes, you could argue, Santos should have turned in Rey in this match or whatever. I think they're waiting until the actual title match to do that. So by having them win, by having them win as a tag team, it'll make them look united this week. So next week, when the turn does happen, people will be more shocked. That's me playing devil's advocate here. The other thing, I think the Street Profits are still going to win the tag team championships. I really do think that will be the direction for them. But I think they're trying to tell the story because, Clark, here's the thing, right? You've always said about Damage Control. They haven't told us why they're friends or whatever. They haven't told us with Lashley and the Street Profits why either. And now they're slowly, by doing this, we're finding out why Lashley wants them. He wants to help elevate them, and he wants, to change the Street Profits, to bring out that darker side in them. We're learning it. We're seeing it on our TV screens. It's not happening off air, right? So if your take wasn't the same about Damage Control, I'd be like, okay, fair enough, good point. But isn't this, exactly what you wanted Damage Control to do?
To your point, I would say it had the Street Profits beat down the entire LWO post-match after taking the loss? Sure. But taking losses isn't telling us that story. It's not, right? Bobby Lashley hasn't elevated them in any way. They were elevated above that as the Street Profits with the cups falling from the sky and wearing the city's local sports teams gear every week. They were already doing that, right? And they were already over. I mean, their entrance was as big as anyone's Mania Night 1 in the tag team throwaway match. Now, where we are now, I get it that Santos and Ray have a thing going. I don't know what it is. It's not a heck of a lot better than the Theory rivalry with the United States title. Like, I get that there's the mentor-mentee thing there too. But, I mean, let's maybe, speaking of storytelling, let's maybe speed things up. I don't need to be spoon-fed.
Well, it is. It's next week they're having the match.
Yes, they're having the match, but I don't need to be spoon-fed the turn. Like you said, it's telegraphed. It's telegraphed.
Or they did the opposite.
If you see it coming,
I didn't mind this. I didn't mind it this week because they've thrown people off scent. Literally every wrestling promotion, every time they're about to do a turn, they start teasing it with some friction between them both. There's no friction between Mysterio and Escobar. And Kobe's saying that Santos is working as a face and he doesn't want him to turn. I can see that, I can, but if that is the case and they don't do the turn next week, then I take back what I'm saying in this segment. They should have done it the other way around.
Yes.
They should have done some friction this week, and then after the match next week, they're back on the same page. That's what they should have done if it's the other way around. But if they do the turn this week, I have no issue with this. They're on the same page this week. Next week, Santos shockingly turns heel, and then Street Profits start getting on the same page, and then they end up going for the tag team championships whenever. Balor and Priest probably lose them, as I doubt they're doing heel versus heel, but in this state of a tag team division, who knows? Because I do agree with you, Clark. There are a lot of single tag teams or whatever, but this specific match, I personally did not have an issue with. But now, we're going to take a quick breather, just for a minute from SmackDown, right? And we're actually going to take it to the rival promotion, All Elite Wrestling. Because if you guys follow us on our Instagram page this week, after AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, which, by the way, was the highest rated episode of TV in the rating system's history, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure that is correct as well, and the rating system's only 2 years old, right? So it's the best episode of TV from any promotion which we review in the past 2 years, right? That's basically what that means. But it got 4.75 out of 5 from David Sheldon. Ignacio in the Wrestling Republic staff group chat sent a long message, and he basically just completely obliterated AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. David made a reply to it, posted it to the Instagram, and it was, it became quite a bit of a hit. I think we're up to 3,000 likes on it now or something like that. But Ignacio, give me your take on AEW Grand Slam and why you didn't like it.
Well, apparently I ruined David's morning coffee that morning or something. So, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the whole show, just the crux of what you mentioned. But I mean, bro, it wasn't a good show. It was not a good show. Same thing every week. Lack of storytelling, subpar matches. Like somebody said, mentioned in the comments, they like Claudio and Kingston. And I replied back, well, that's the reason why you shouldn't watch wrestling, because you like that type of match for what it was. Japanese style, hit me, I don't sell. Then I hit you and you don't sell. The thing that makes me upset about matches like that with individuals like that is they both know better. Kingston's a heck of a promo. Claudio's a hell of an athlete. And they go out and they have a match like that, which I believe was a total disappointment. And I'll go to the crux of my comment about, MJF and Samoa Joe and JR and Shivani, because they come from a time where before they got hired by AEW, they smashed on their podcast what AEW is and has turned into. And now they work for them. And I don't know when JR's contract ends with AEW. I think it's soon. But a year from now, maybe 2, all he's going to be saying is how dysfunctional, disorganized, and how he hated working for AEW. I guarantee it. But of course, if you work for the company, you don't want to badmouth the company while you're there, even though he does sometimes live on air. If you've ever heard him, Samoa Joe should be doing something better. He should be back in WWE. I hope he ends up there again one day. And
He hasn't said that live on air.
JR?
Yeah, he's not said live on air that Samoa Joe should go back to WWE.
No, I've said JR live on air buries AEW.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
enough.
No. I'm saying I hope Samoa Joe ends up back in WWE. That's what I'm saying. He hasn't said that live on air.
Sorry, I misunderstood you there. I was like, I don't remember the JR saying that. Cole.
No. But I'll go on. So David mentioned, David says you're stuck in the past and Hulk Hogan and all this stuff. I'm like, I can't find my Hogan t-shirt because I was going to wear it, bring it with me so I can wear it on the show. So David jinxed me. I can't find my Hogan shirt anywhere. But anyway, this is the thing, is that Hogan, he was hokey, and sometimes he was hokey and over the top on his promos and stuff he did. But look at the rivalries. Look with Piper and Andre and Savage and DiBiase and Slaughter and those guys. Look at those feuds and those promos and those programs. They were all semi-adult oriented, because in the 80s they didn't have TV's rights fees. They made their money on house shows and pay-per-view. So if you look at the attendance for those shows, it's just not a bunch of toddlers, preteens, and children, and parents that are just taking their kids to the shows. Those programs that Hogan was involved in attracted adults because they had feuds with Piper, because he had feuds with Piper, Andre, Savage, with those guys that I mentioned, because they had personal issues involved with them, and they were serious reality-based storylines, which the one with Slaughter was one of my personal favorites, even though it was too controversial for the time, or maybe now anytime. But they were personal feuds that made sense, and Hogan was the all-around American hero, and Hogan, you believe that was Hogan. Like, there was no Terry Bollea. Hulk Hogan was Hulk Hogan, and he was Hulk Hogan in the ring and out of the ring. Come to AEW and what they're doing with MJF, this bad buddy comedy, that ridiculousness that he's doing with Adam Cole and Roderick Strong is just more phony, the most phony thing on TV, the most ridiculous thing on TV. And MJF isn't MJF. This whole babyface turn that he's made was done poorly. It's not believable. He's not playing a babyface. He's cosplaying a babyface. And I don't know if that's the idea that they're trying to convey, and if it is, it's bad. But you don't believe MJF is being MJF because it's so far out of his realm and his character. It's just ridiculous. So make fun of Hogan all you want, but I mean, he drew more dollars, and he will always draw more dollars. If they keep on doing this with MJF, he'll never get to that point, because Hogan was real. His feuds were real. You believe that was Hogan. They were reality based, and they were good. This, what they're doing with MJF, is phony, fake, not him, not too true to what MJF is, and the babyface turn is just done poorly. That's what I didn't like about the premise of the show, the main event, and in general.
I think that's kind of the point, though. I think the point is that this is, MJF's pretending to be a face, and then he's saying, he's not even acting like he's a full-blown face. He's kind of acting like he's still a heel, but he's the people's heel. But I mean, eventually, surely he's gonna turn again, don't you think?
I don't know. It's bad. The way they're going about it is bad. Everything they do is bad. From MJF to Samoa Joe to everything they do with, the Elite and Hangman Page, and everything they do is just bad because the storytelling is bad. Powerhouse Hobbs, Miro, everything they do is just bad. And I just think I think of guys like Powerhouse Hobbs and Thunder Rosa and Ricky Starks, and I'm like, man, I can't wait till they go to WWE so they can just set them straight and make them superstars. And here's something for the people who think I'm stuck in the past. The same people who say that I'm stuck in the past are the same people clamoring for The Rock to come back at WrestleMania and face Roman, or for Edge to go to AEW so he can team it up with Christian and take on the Hardy Boys, who are just one of the biggest disappointments right now in AEW and all of wrestling, because they can't go in the ring. Aren't these all superstars from 25 years ago, and people are clamoring for them to come back and wrestle? And they say, I'm stuck in the past? That's just ridiculous.
I mean, you made actually some good points there about people saying you're stuck in the past, but I very much disagree with what you're saying about MJF. I do, and I was criticizing it at the start, the way that which they've done it, but I actually think, I mean, he's so over right now. Like, the amount, like, he's selling so much merchandise. I know that's not the role of a heel or whatever, but he is putting, you know, asses in seats right now too. I mean,
He's Mean Joe Green.
I mean, I was at Wembley, and the place were loving him, right? 72,000 people, not 81,000, but still 72,000 people were loving him. So, I don't know about that one, but let's now quickly move back to SmackDown, and let's talk about Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, the team collectively known as A-Town Down Under, which is the best tag team name ever, against Butch and Holland. I enjoyed this match. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller got the win. I feel like they could be going on a tag team run. Like you said earlier, Clark, it is a random people kind of being thrown together. But I don't think this is bad for Austin Theory. I will say that. But Josh, give me your take on this match.
Yeah, Ben, A-Town Down Under, the best tag team name I've ever heard. No, but I mean, for real, like, immediately I am seeing potential with this team. You know, Austin and Waller, they're great together, and I do praise WWE for, you know, having that idea to pair them up and even grab the win. I thought I thought the match was solid, and I like the ending as well. But my issue with this team is, you know, Waller is talented enough to see a singles main event scene, like a run soon. I mean, we've seen him work with, you know, all these main eventers and Hall of Famers even. But, you know, I feel like Theory's already had that opportunity. You know, he had that long reign as United States champion. He was main eventing Raw. I mean, he wrestled the first match on WrestleMania against John Cena. And still, I feel like he just couldn't get over, and it just barely did anything for him. And I think this duo is a solid mid-card pairing, and it should be temporary, but I don't think it should be anything more than that. And I mean, I'd love to see, like, you know, Butch make a big run as a singles competitor. But the same thing with the Brawling Brutes. You know, I think they're also just a low card pairing. I don't see the Brawling Brutes going, you know, anywhere farther than they are right now. You know, I would love to see maybe a Butch versus Sheamus match if Butch decided to leave the Brutes. But I mean, for the match itself, just like you said, I enjoyed the match a lot. You know, we got to witness the unbelievable strength of Holland. And surprisingly, as Corey Graves mentioned, you know, Theory and Waller worked extremely well together in the match. And, you know, the ending with like the rolling Thunder Stunner into the A-Town Down was pretty cool. And I mean, look, you can call me a madman, but I do believe they may have a solid chance of winning those tag team titles in the future. And I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, you made some great points there. You know, the Brutes are, I mean, Kobe Gallon's also going to comment right now saying Brutes are in a true limbo of creative. Yeah, they are. And I do share your same concern over A-Town Down Under, Josh, as well. But at the same time, Austin Theory is also somebody who's in a limbo, which is why I don't hate this pairing, because Grayson Waller actually has what Austin Theory lacks. So
In
that's
spades.
that's what do you say, Clark?
I said that's in spades. That's the understatement of the century. Like we've got watching paint dry in Austin Theory, and then we've got Captain Charisma and the guy from Down Under. I mean, it's not even close. Grayson Waller literally is just carrying this kid to the top. I don't understand what Vince ever saw in him. I don't get it. John Cena had charisma, and those comparisons is mind numbing to me.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm not gonna delve into that too much, Clark, or you're gonna get cancelled by our comments again. But now but yeah, Josh, I agree with you. I really, really do. Hopefully they do something with Butch very soon because that guy is a main event wrestler. I wrote about it months ago. Check that out on WrestlingRepublic.com. But why should turn back into Pete Dunne and they should call up Tyler Bate and put Tyler Bate, Ridge Holland, and Pete Dunne in a faction together. And, I think they could be the next, I don't want to say the next Shield, but the next, top 3-person faction in WWE. But now let's talk about the main event, which was meant to be John Cena and AJ Styles against Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. John Cena came out and made the challenge earlier on in the night and invited out AJ Styles, who's gone from a few years ago wanting to beat up John Cena to now wanting to team with John Cena. So that was certainly interesting. I personally would have loved bringing back the beat up John Cena, but oh well. But yeah, I mean, they teased doing a match. Paul Heyman said that's not happening. They ended up agreeing to do it at Fastlane. Did a contract signing later on in the night. John Cena came out first, signed everything. Styles then came out. He was going to come out, and he got taken out backstage by Jimmy Uso and then Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa jumped from the sky down through presumably a table. We couldn't really see it. On AJ Styles. AJ Styles went away in an ambulance. And then, because AJ Styles no longer, has the balls to do it, Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa decided to beat up John Cena instead. I enjoyed this segment. I thought this was good. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see who will team up. With John Cena, I think it's entirely possible. AJ Styles does come back from this injury, and that's what they end up doing. Maybe it's one of those things where they announce a handicap match at Fastlane, and then AJ Styles comes down last minute, and he's suddenly cleared. Because to be fair, people have taken that spot and been back the next week. So I think 2.5 weeks, Styles could make a comeback. About that, Josh, I'll pass this one to you first. What did you think about this main event segment and the contract signing? What was meant to be a contract signing anyway.
Yeah, I was very entertained by this segment. I think the only people that can really main event SmackDown without doing a real match is the Bloodline, and I think they did awesome. And of course, John Cena. I think the first thing that I saw, like the first second when Adam Pearce said one of our main events, that made me feel a weird way. I feel like that this should be the main event of Fastlane. But anyways, I loved how after the attack, I mean, Solo jumped from the sky. That was awesome. And I loved how Heyman and the Usos kind of walked down the aisle in silence and the boos were just so loud. Like they were getting Dominic Mysterio heat. Like it was unbelievable. And I do like I thought when AJ Styles was in the ambulance, I thought we were going to see one of those times where he pushes himself out of the ambulance and all the personnel and the staff are like, no, please don't do this. And he pushes them away. We didn't see that, but I did think that was going to happen. But anyways, I do like the suspense going into Fastlane. I feel like whenever there's a mystery opponent, especially at a premium live event, it always makes for a great pop. And there's no doubt, I don't think that Cena and whoever his partner will be will win this match. But either way, I mean, it was a solid contract signing to build and advance the build for the match at Fastlane.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It's really added some suspense to it, like you said. Only thing I will disagree on is I agree with you in terms of one of the main events. I think that's ludicrous to have that title, but I personally don't want it to be the main event purely because there's a world championship also on that card, and me personally, I like seeing my world title fights in the main event, or at least title fights, because I mean this isn't even for the tag titles. But now let's Ignacio, what did you think about this contract signing, and are you excited for the possibility of this match?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Look, I think that the Bloodline storyline was kind of fizzling out, especially after the WrestleMania. A couple months after WrestleMania, maybe after Money in the Bank. I'll say that after Money in the Bank, I think it was kind of fizzle out. But who better to bring in and revive it than John Cena and Brock last week? So everybody's talking about that, and Jimmy, I think, is doing a good job. I don't think he's doing as good as Jay, but Jay's being billed as a babyface, right? Jimmy's doing, I think, a good job also, and I think it's just something to get along, to go along, to get us to WrestleMania. And then we all assume that eventually it's going to be Rock and Roman, right? But I mean, it's just something to get us the storyline there, and I think they're doing a good job at pushing it. A lot of people are tired of the bloodline, but I'm still enjoying it. I mean, I was kind of hoping it would end at WrestleMania with Cody winning the title and all that stuff, but I mean, I think they're doing a good job just kind of getting us there and pushing us forward. So I liked it. I like the stretcher job, building anticipation to the pay-per-view, like Josh said. So I think they're doing good here. Their main event stuff, WWE tends to do pretty good. So that's what they're doing. One more thing, I won't take up too much time about Theory. I wanted to mention is that I think Clark kind of hit it on the head, and I think what he's missing is what Theory's missing is what they're trying to do with him. They're trying to give him some grit, and it's not working. The fans don't see it that way. He's still the social media pretty boy, whatever. And they tried to do that with John Cena at WrestleMania. They tried to make him more, aggressive or give him gritty, right? But I think the approach they need to take is they need to pair him in a program with Edge, or they should have done it with Edge, or maybe they'll do it, or they can do it with Edge or Randy Orton, a good lengthy program that ends in a gimmick match where Austin Theory proves that he's tough and he has it in him to hang with the gritty, the big boys. And the reason why I say is they need to do it with Edge or Orton is because Foley did it with them.
Yes.
With Randy Orton and with Edge. And I think
generational, that makes a lot of sense.
If they can get somebody like Foley, who gave Randy Orton the grit he needed to reach the next level, or Edge, like Foley did with Edge at WrestleMania 22, build it with a good gimmick match to prove that Austin Theory has what it takes to get to that next level, to be tough. I think that's when Austin Theory is going to get over with the fans.
You made a great point there, Ignacio. You really, really did. That is, I mean, we've been saying on the show for a while, they need to, find a solution, and perhaps that is the solution. It'd be a very tricky one to get right. I will say that. But if they got it right, that might be the solution. But Clark, you've been harsh on Austin Theory, but are you harsh on this contract signing? What did you think about it?
I totally hear where Ignacio is coming from on Austin Theory, and I totally agree. Now, onto the contract signing. He mentioned a name that I was ready to mention here. And if we lose AJ Styles in this story, which I didn't mind, although I found weird the camera cuts at the end of the show, how many Uso splashes did we get? How many Samoan spikes did we get? There were some funky cuts there at the end of SmackDown if you go back and watch crowd shots and different things. And the replay showed one more splash than we got, which is fine with me. So if AJ's out, who do you slide in for the dream team with Cena? And WWE has a tendency to do this, and this is one of the few times I wouldn't mind. The Viper, Cena's greatest rival as his partner. Randy Orton and Cena, now that's a main event match. No titles, I don't care. Orton and Cena versus the Bloodline. Now, all of a sudden, things get muddier on the way to Mania because you have both Orton and Cena in the title picture, especially if they go over with Reigns. And you add to that the Cody Rhodes aspect, you add to that the Jey Uso aspect, and now all of a sudden we're asking questions, and we have a nice little foundation to build stories upon into Mania season to give us that real one main event that we deserve at WrestleMania 40, whichever it may be, whether it's Rock Reigns, whether it's Reigns Cody, whether it's Reigns Orton, whether it's Reigns anybody. I think Reigns is kind of the mainstay here. But let's give us a foundation and let's give us some players. And if you add Orton to this scenario, all of a sudden, if he's healthy, if he's ready, you insert him as Cena's greatest rival, and they get this win, and we go from there headed to next April. It's only just the end of September right now, guys. We've got plenty of time. There's just so much we can do with that.
Absolutely. No, that's getting me excited, Clark. That really, really is. I didn't even think of that. And I made a graphic today, select your scenario to be posted on the Instagram this week, and that wasn't one of the scenarios. So great. You post that as a reel now, and everybody in the comments will flood it. Where's Randy Orton? Option E or whatever. But thank you guys so much for watching the show today. Thank you to Josh for making his debut. Thank you to Ignacio for returning, and thank you as always to the co-host Clark Taylor. It's been a great show. We will be back tomorrow, same time for Mailbag Monday. So send in your questions via the Wrestling Republic Instagram stories. And of course, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe as well, because they help us out massively. And if you're on Spotify, a cheeky 5 stars. Thank you so much. We will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy AEW. Sorry, no, it's not. It's not Mailbag Monday tomorrow. Tomorrow is AEW
Sunday.
Collision. I did it 2 weeks in a row, this mistake. But we'll be here tomorrow for AEW Collision. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.